Welcome to this episode of In the Trailer with Chief and Jackie and the cats. Chief and Jackie and the cats.
And the skunk.
Oh yeah, now we have a skunk. Yeah. It's like...
And the raccoons. It's
Yeah,
like a petting zoo around here.
Yeah, no,
things
like,
that you can't pet.
It's like freaking...
It's a non-petting zoo.
Green Acres. So, yeah, we went to the track on Friday for this Friday night testing tune. You guys saw that. We did end up making one hit that night. You guys saw it. It was actually, better than expected. But the 60 foot was down. I felt it was down because I went in too deep because the bump was...
Yeah, you almost bumped out.
It was more than a bump. I don't know what you would call
almost
it.
2 bumps.
After we left the track, as you will see, we came back to the shop, and our goal was, first we wanted to make sure that our ignition problems were fixed. We didn't have any weird cam sync or rotor phasing issues or whatever, so I wanted to do a deep inspection on the engine, pull all the plugs, check everything out, run the valves, retorque the heads, and then go through the entire car, nut and bolt the whole thing. Because even though it was only one pass, like a lot of people don't realize, like when you first put these things together or when you put them back together, a lot of times they get new fasteners here and there, or the temperature changes in between when you're putting stuff together. So after the first pass, everything gets really, hot and vibrated loose. It's a good idea to retorque the whole car, basically nut and bolt the whole car, especially when it's 100% cooled down. When it's had 24 hours to cool completely down, then you retorque everything, or nut and bolt everything. And it's just because when things expand, it pulls on the fastener and then it stretches the material, and then when it contracts, the fastener stays and the rest of the material doesn't. So wait till it cools back down, tighten it all back up. A couple of those and you'll be good all season. Running the valves, that's just one of those things. It's like, that will tell you so much about how an engine is feeling. If the valves are about what you set them at cold, then everything's pretty much, everything's happy. Nothing's moving around, seats aren't moving up in the head, valves aren't sinking, nothing's bending, nothing's tweaking, like everything's good. We ran the valves and it was one of the gooder valve setups. Anyway, we ran the overhead, what I call run the overhead. So we do the valve, we run the valves, set those if they need them, check them, whatever, and then retorque the heads, and we retorque the headers as well. Just a upper end maintenance deal. And while I was running the valves and torquing the heads and all that stuff, and trying to throw my back out to torque all 10 of those big bad Pontiac head studs, we have a fuel room, and that's where all the fuel and oil and stuff is. And that's where I mix the fuel. This time, Jackie did the whole thing from start to finish, and I wasn't in there with her. So
okay, Dad.
Well, I'm just saying, like when I go in there, I usually, shut the compressor off and, blah, blah, blah. But she was in there mixing fuel by herself. And in the middle of the night, this place is weird anyway, especially if you're in a fuel room. That's a weird place to be. And
well, to be honest, your fuel's pretty dangerous. Like, I don't even know if VP's going to sell it to me anymore after they watch that clip. But
yeah,
she can't handle that.
That's not our permanent fuel storage. That was just temporary for last week. It's in a better place already. Those drums, in the daytime, the fuel and the oxygen in there and everything expands, and then it pushes the drum out, and then as it cools off at night, the fuel or whatever's in those drums, brake clean fuel, whatever we have in them, it contracts back, it sinks back down, and then the drum is just left swollen. So like over time, eventually that drum, like a bimetal strip, it boom, and the top will bounce, and it'll bounce off. Sometimes they bounce off the ground. If you have something on top of them, sometimes it'll shoot 5 foot in the air. Like, it's pretty cool. I usually hear it in the shop. I'm not usually standing next to it when it happens. So if I was in there mixing nitromethane with methanol.
Well, I think the part that you don't understand because you weren't there was I had started to open the seal on it, and I heard the vacuum of it like sucking. You know,
On
because
the
it was
nitro?
sucking in the air, but I was like, this is the nitro drum, so I gotta be careful. So I was like, it was sucking the air, and I was like, if I open this the rest of the way, it won't pop. It'll just have all the air it wants. And so I went to go open it more, and that's when it popped, like right when my hand was on it.
Yeah, it's even worse when when you're messing with the nitro drum when something like that happens. Because those of you who aren't familiar with nitromethane, let's just say the right mixture of that chemical, along with a couple other chemicals that are in that room by the drum, can take out a whole town. Like allegedly level it to nothing. Like there'd be nothing, like not even a yard sale, nothing. Like
Yeah.
so, it can get a bit scary at times, but for the most part, we're really safe about it. So Jackie was pumping the fuel while I was doing all that stuff, and then once I made sure the motor was good and gave it a clean bill of health, I was kind of excited because it's like, all right, you know, we made one. There's nothing weird about it. Everything seems okay. Let's do this, But in my notes, when I moved it over to the lift, there was something weird about it. Something sounded weird, and I wasn't sure what it was. It almost sounded like it had a dead hole or something, but I know that it didn't. But it almost sounded that way. So I put new plugs in it. We decided we were going to go to the track on Wednesday and work on the 60 foot. That was our main goal because Friday's night test session, even though we only got the one pass, the 60 foot was not even close. I think it was a 110 actually.
I think it was 110.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Knowing that, then we start to wonder, is it tire, is it car, is it suspension, is it stator, is it whatever, what could be the issue with the 60 foot? Was it just that I was too deep? Because if you don't know, there's about a 15-inch window when you stage the car, and like half of that is pre-stage, the second half is staged. There's two sets of bulbs up there to let you know that you're staged. And then once you get into that section, the second set of bulbs comes on, and then after a certain amount of time, or when the guy turns the light on, then the tree comes down and you take off. Well, you have to break that beam to start the run. So if you bump into here, well then when he turns the yellows on and you let go of the button, you have to move from here to here basically to start the run, and then when you exit this is when your reaction time will show. So how long it took from the millisecond that the light comes on to when you break that beam. When you bump in deep, it starts your time faster, so you don't get that little bit of a run at it. So you don't get to move before you turn the time on. And while that may not seem like a lot, being that it's only 6 or 7 inches, it makes a big difference in the ET, especially the 60 foot.
When you're going down to hundreds and thousands.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I red lit, which told me, which if I'm guessing at or if I'm racing, I'm not too worried about it. Like I think, oh, well, maybe I was just up on the wheel too much or whatever. But when I'm just testing and I red light like that on a normal, test session, like nothing, not really super nervous or nothing, I just red light like that, I know that I was in way too deep because my actual reaction to the bulb was too early. It wasn't that I went before I saw the bulb, it was I was too fast. So in order to be too fast, I have to be really deep. Anyway, long story short. So we were curious about the 60 foot after the pass at Thunder Valley. So we took it back to the shop, did a little maintenance on it, ran the valves, went through the whole car, gave it a clean bill of health. Doesn't seem like the ignition stuff's still an issue. And now it's time to work on the 60 foot. So made a few changes in the shop, just trying to find that magical combination. Now we're going to pick up kind of where we left off on Friday, or actually probably before where we left off on Friday, and we're going to go to the track on Wednesday. And we're going to try and work on the 60 foot and maybe do the shakedown runs that we were supposed to do. Maybe not all of them, maybe not stopping at 50 and 60 foot all the time, but go out there, work on the 60 foot, work on the incrementals, work on the 330, work on staging the car, bumping the car, work on our routine in the pit, and just try and get used to this combination and get ready for the war in the world. Woods in the world, that's what it is. So the goals for the first pass on this test session is just get back to a level ground. So work on 60 foot, work on staging, work on bumping the car in, work on fueling, work on everything at once, and just try to chip away at our program and find what's missing.
Oh, how you started?
Yeah,
Oh, that was way better than that. Like, usually, that golf cart is usually break your neck or it doesn't move at all.
Yeah, but you can definitely tell now that like there's not a bunch of other rattling parts in
Yeah.
there. You can definitely tell that muffler.
Going up there for the first pass, the car was running kind of weird. I wasn't sure. Maybe I just fat fingered something in the tune-up. It's hard to tell. When I first started it, it seemed like it had ran out of fuel, but I know it didn't. We hadn't made a pass. When I pulled it up there, I was about to go into the water box. It almost had a dead spot in it, and I just, I'm sure it's just something in the tune-up. I can correct this. I'll turn the data logger on now, and it will tell me that this is the spot in the run where I need to look at, and then I'll correct this before the next pass. I pulled up, went to do the burnout, and when I was trying to pull it up on boost to start the burnout, before I could even get into the shift, it started to like go up slow, and then when it finally zinged up, as I was putting it into high gear, it just almost died. It went down, RPM shot down, car fell over, and then all of a sudden, bang, it hit back on. And I finished the burnout, and everything seemed fine, for the rest of the burnout. Like while my foot was on the throttle and down, did the rest of the burnout fine. So I'm working on the fueling every pass. I'm thinking maybe I just adjusted something too much or in the wrong place. Go to stage the car. The bump was, I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't like super hard where it lunged way forward, but it snapped, but it didn't move. It almost snapped and rolled back, snapped and rolled back, snapped and rolled back. And so I ended up pressing it 3, 4, 5 times. Finally got it to light the bulb, and it came back out of the bulb. So I hit it again, and it lit the bulb, and I knew that it was a little forward, so I let it roll back just a little bit, grabbed the foot brake, bulb stayed on. I knew we were shallow. Light come on, I let go of the brake, and it was on one. Everything was pretty much, as we hoped. It went down through there, and then about 300 foot, maybe just before 300 foot, it just lit the tire on fire. Almost instantly. Like it was spinning a little bit and I could feel it, but then it just come unglued. And I know that whenever I was doing my burnout, I was trying to figure out all that fueling issues and stuff. When I stopped after the burnout and I stop, I put it in reverse, I back up. After about 2-3 seconds, Jackie is usually running to catch me. She runs in front of the car and we do the backing up procedure. But this time when I put it in reverse, I looked forward to see where I was in the track. And it looked like a dirt road. It looked like I had turned the wrong way at some point, and I was on a dirt road. But there was dirt everywhere, and it was bad. And you could see like tire tracks in it from, whoever was driving down through there, or whatever, tractors, whatever it was. So I thought to myself as I was backing up, I was like, okay, it's bad right there, but you could almost see it's not as bad here, and it looks like it gets worse as you go. So okay, I just got to remember when I get to this part of the run, I need to be ready because that's not some weird optical illusion or some lighting thing. When I hit that, things are going to get wild. And sure enough, that's what happened. As soon as I got to that spot in the track, it zinged up and the car shot, almost went sideways, but I was ready. The chute was out, shut down, no big deal. So go back around to the pit, starting to look at data. We're cooling the car down. It was lean in the burnout, which is weird. Had a couple of lean spots in the burnout. So a little lean at idle, which is weird. But then, man, the whole run, it was fat. It was fat on the two-step. It was fat when I let go of the button. It was fat like bad. And I don't run O2 corrections or nothing, so I don't have anything in the computer that's telling it to pull fuel or add fuel or nothing like that. When this thing is fat, it's fat, but it shouldn't be. What minor changes I made weren't enough to make a swing in air fuel. It was just to clean things up a little bit here and there. And if anything, I was taking fuel out, not putting fuel in it, which, you know, I kind of figured maybe why the burnout had some lean spots. Maybe I took too much fuel out. But then on the pass, it was so fat on the pass, it was pretty crazy. And the time that it normally takes me to make another run, which is when we're testing, it usually takes me quite a while. We're just at the point now where it's like, there's no point in rushing up there to make another pass and make another version of the one we just made. It sounds stupid, but you know, a lot of guys, they want to make 5 or 6 passes a test session, and so do I. That would be amazing, but there's no point in making 5 or 6 of the same passes. With me, I want to improve on every pass, and I want to give us a baseline so that when we go to the race, we don't have to do this. We can spend a little time now and chip away at the tune-up and, you know, spend a little extra time going over data. At the race, we don't even have to worry about data. We don't have to worry about the tune-up. We just worry about racing. I saw the video in the car pulling out of the trailer, and in one view it sounded killer, and the next view it sounded, you know, whatever. And then I thought maybe you changed mics or had 2 mics on at once because it, you know, one
Well, yeah,
side
sometimes
of
the
the car.
GoPro sounds different than well, not sometimes. The GoPro always sounds different than the Sony camera. So that's
Yeah,
like
but-
hard to tell too, you know.
Yeah, but it was, it sounded dead. It sounded like it was either way too lean or had a dead hole or a couple of dead holes. So I don't know. We weren't sure, but you know, you could do that all day. You could look at videos, you could look at data, you could do things all day, and you could just say, it just doesn't sound normal, it doesn't seem normal, it doesn't look normal, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that
But-
one time we changed your bearings because of that, and there was nothing wrong with them. It was your fuel pump bearing or whatever.
Yes, God, that one got me good. That one got me real good. Sometimes you can hear things in videos that you can't hear in real life. While I'm looking at data and everything, I decided, okay, we're going to go up there, we're going to make another one. Just in case, I'm going to turn on O2 correction, which I don't normally do, but just in case, I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to set it, so I had to build a whole map for that, but I'm going to set it at like probably 5% add fuel and 2 or 3% take away fuel, just so that if there is something going on, it'll help it a little bit and catch it and see it, and you know, just something to try and keep from burning a cylinder up or something. So I put a little O2 correction in it, and I was scared to take the full amount of fuel out that I thought it would need because it was so fat. I was scared to take that amount of fuel out of it because it didn't seem real. You know what I mean? So not when the pass before was just a few days ago, and it was perfect. I have my notes. Hang on. Yeah, so this is the notes from the first pass, in between the first pass and then second pass. And it literally says, maybe lean at idle plus burnout, had a dead spot in the burnout, felt semi-shallow, bump still kind of hot, perfectly straight, wheels up till dirt clods, spinning pretty good. No drive shaft sensor data again. LOL. It says fuck LOL. Plugs all good. Check plug wires at dizzy cap. Super fat. Check again after warm up. Trying to figure out why. But so these are all the notes that I take after a pass. And then, you know, for TNT2, I mean, it says O2 correction. O2. Like it's telling me to. I'm telling myself to figure out why. I took 2 clicks of extension out of the rear shocks, moved the shift out, the 1-2 shift out like where it normally is because everything was pretty safe. But even letting off at 300 foot or just before or just after, it still went, you know, 289 and then coasted to a 483. So, and it was perfectly straight. That was the cool thing, is like, you know, the car's going straight, chassis working good, everything's great, but it was super fat. So we're just going to try and fix it for the second one and make another pass and see if we get the same data. Ugh. What the hell, man? Yeah, something was wrong on the last run in the burnout, and it like coughed and hiccuped for a second, but then it like came back to life, and then on the run, it had weird spots in the run that were fat for no reason. It shouldn't have been fat. And I couldn't figure it out. The lights flashing again.
So that box is bad again?
Yeah, see, it's flashing. So
Yeah.
it's one, 2, 3, 4.
I don't remember what those codes mean. We'll have to Google it.
I just need to count them. 1, 2,
4 and 3.
4. Either 43 means the box is bad, or I have the paperwork in the truck, but or it means that something else, some other sensor got kicked off of it, and somehow that box knows it. So I go to pull up for the second pass, car won't start. I'm cranking on it, it's got no fuel pressure. So I thought maybe that was, the reason why we had an issue before, whatever. Maybe we had a fuel pump issue or fuel pressure issue. It finally starts, and then it's lean, weirdly lean. I just added fuel to it, so I didn't understand that. And then as I'm, bringing the RPM up to get some heat in the short block and stuff and get some heat in the exhaust, I can see it's going fat. The longer it's running, the fatter it's getting. Like, I'm just sitting there watching the oxygen sensor just creep down where it's not supposed to. So I pull around the corner. She's waiting on me up front. She's gonna line me up coming into the water box, and it definitely sounds weird, like weirder than usual. And then as I'm rounding the corner, it starts getting super fat. Then I'm like, what the hell? Like, there's the fuel I put in it. Why is it waiting till now? That's not the way a fuel map works. It's not really on time, so didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Then I thought maybe I had a water pump issue, so I'm reaching over, bang the water tank. Usually if there's a piece of ice stuck in the water pump, if you bang the tank, it'll usually kick it through and turn the water pump on. As the motor gets hot, it gets fat. So the longer you run it without water or whatever, it gets fat. So I was thinking maybe this thing's getting hot really quick. But that wasn't it. We go up, I go into the water box, start the stage up, bring the RPMs up, bring the boost up to start the burnout. Not sounding super great. Put it into high, start to roll out, and all of a sudden there it is. I was like, okay, here we go. We're all good. We're all good. And then it was just like the weirdest thing. Right as soon as I was thinking, okay, we're all good, it went just real quick, but then it was right back to good, and I was like, okay, we're all good again, whatever. So then I started thinking, oh, it's cam sync. It's got to be the cam sync thing dropping out. Maybe that distributor's messed up again or whatever. When I get to the end of the burnout, it doesn't seem like it has any power, so the tire starts to stop on its own. The last 1.5 seconds of it, everything was good. Right as I was coming to the end of the burnout, I'm looking over at Jackie. I know we got 8-9 month old tires on this thing. You got tires that old, you have to hit a certain RPM, a certain speed to get them to smoke, to get them to come alive, to get them to work right. And if your patch is this skinny, you're not doing anything. So I'm watching her to tell me what I need to do, and I can just feel the tire start to grab. Like, it ain't got no power. This is a car that you should be able to, on 25, 30% nitro, whatever we got in it right now, you should be able to do a burnout until you don't want to anymore, with no effort. As I'm getting towards the end of the burnout, I look over at Jackie. I can feel the tires start to grab. And I was like, what the heck? Like, okay, guess we're done with the burnout. So I start to reach over to do my, end of the burnout procedures as I'm going to give it a little bit of gas, then let off, let the tires grab, chirp, everything's good. No, as I'm going to do that, I look over at Jackie. She says this. If she says this, that means there's no smoke. There's no, there's no burnout, basically. So when she said that, oh shit, went to the floor. This thing did not like that at all. It, I'm sure it went under a massive load, even though it doesn't have any horsepower right now for whatever reason. Like, it wasn't happy with me doing that. So as I put my foot to the floor, it tried to slow the tire down, and then it tried to speed it back up, and you can feel the car start to raise up like it's gonna do it. And I was like, okay, cool. So it did it for a second. I thought maybe it did it. Maybe it rose up and did it. And I start to pull out of the gas, and it already, before I could even get my foot to come up off the floor, the tire's hooked, it skirt, and it was silent. And I was like, uh-oh. Like, I thought maybe I broke a drive shaft, or I broke a ring and pinion or something, like, I thought maybe I broke something. I get to a stop. I could hear, though, as I was pulling up to stop, I could hear the ring and pinion, so it's moving. It's not broke. So I pull to a stop. I kind of try to rock it into park or whatever, and I was like, we'll try and start it. Before anybody gets to me, before anybody, turns any settings off, before anybody runs up, kills a battery, before anybody goes and gets a golf cart, like, I'm just going to try and crank it up and back up real fast. And I crank it, and it's not happening. Nobody's home.
Starter only.
Starter only. Usually when that happens, you get something on the dash and you can tell why. Like usually the RPM won't be moving, so you know, okay, we got a problem with the sensor or something. Like something's not. If it doesn't see RPM, it can't start. But no, RPM was moving, not like it's supposed to, but it was moving. Fuel pressure was there, oil pressure was there, everything was there. The only thing that wasn't there was apparently spark. I look over because the only time I ever remember this happening. This goes to show you how little we have problems, and now all we have is problems. But the only time I ever remember this happening in my car was when we had a ignition box go bad years ago. This was 2019. What had happened was same kind of situation. The car was running weird. It was running super fat for no reason. It didn't sound super great. It didn't have a bunch of power like it normally does. Then it just wouldn't start. I look over. I see my ignition box sitting over there, and it has a little light on it that tells you the state that it's in. And it was flashing a code. So it flashes a troubleshoot code, which is like, it's a sequence of numbers, but it's a double-digit number. So if it's like a 50 code, it would do like 5 fast flashes. Well, no, 50 would be hard to do.
51.
51, it'd do like 5 fast and then 1 slow. And then 5 fast and then 1 slow. And that would tell you it's a 51 or whatever. Well, ours was doing 43. 4 slow blinks, 3 fast blinks. It was definitely flashing a code. So I thought, well, okay, no big deal. Reset it. Kick the battery off, battery back on. Green light, no more code. Sweet. Go to hit the starter. Nope. Code. Turn the battery off, battery back on. As soon as I hit the ignition back on, same thing. Right before I get to the starter, there's the code. Jackie looks it up on her phone. The manual for that box, because the manual's in the trailer. We have a spare box in the trailer. The code says there's no fixing that thing. So it says that the capacitors inside won't take a charge or isn't able to charge the capacitors. So
And to send the box back.
yeah, you gotta send it back. In this little box's defense, you can imagine how much we've done with the car. Well, before 2019, when that box went bad, we had years of abuse on that thing, and then it went bad. And we thought there was something back then. We thought it was a battery charger issue. We took that battery charger, filed it away, didn't use it anymore, and we put the new box in. Of course, once this happens, like when it happened in 2019, we took the box out of the trailer, didn't even bolt it all back in, just plugged it in, and the car, I mean, we tried to fire this car forever that night. Like, once we put the spare box in the car, it fired right up. And of course, at that time, I talked to other guys, and they said, oh yeah, no, that happens all the time. It had never happened to us. But we haven't had an issue since then. It's literally since 2019. And then now, boom, there it is. I'm starting to think that I like it this way. I would rather have all my problems at one time and then have 2 or 3 years of good luck and never happen to touch it than having one problem a week,
The weird part is that it's so closely related to the cam sync problem that's what really had us puzzled. It would have been easy to just slap a new box in it and go, but what if we burn that one up too,
Yeah, that's the part that really sucks is that, you're staring at this thing and the box is really expensive. You know what I mean? I also know that the last time in 2019 when I had that box repaired, I was told that they were phasing that box out and that nobody was using that stuff anymore, and it was something that wasn't going to be around much longer. So I was actually told, like, if you can find a couple of these for good deals, buy them, because you don't know how long we're going to have them anymore. So I didn't want to ruin the one we had. I was hoping they could repair our broken one, but I didn't want to ruin the spare that we had in the trailer. So we went over the whole car, made sure everything was right, made sure there was no issue, made sure everything we could, and we don't know what caused it, so we don't know what to check. All we can do is check that everything's, the way we put it, and then move on. So we put the new box in it and it fired right up in the trailer. Now, here's the weird part. When we fired the car up, it sounded way different. No longer fat. No longer air fuel issues. No longer, idling low. Like everything changed. And it was like, whoa. I'd gotten to the point where in the last month I was working on accelerator pump shot fueling in the calibration because it didn't rev like it did before. Now all of a sudden everybody's home. So I was like, man, I wonder if that box has been going out for a while. I wonder if my cam sync issues, if my distributor issues didn't cause it to go out. And then the more I look into it, I think that's what happened. Because I know in those boxes there's so much voltage, like a bajillion volts or something, 500 volts, I don't know how many volts, so much voltage, 1.21 gigawatts of voltage.
Oh.
Yes. And I do know that if that can't go anywhere, when you charge something like that and you send it and you let it go, if it can't go anywhere, It has to go somewhere. It has to terminate. That's why it's called terminals. It has to terminate. If it can't go to a spark plug or to a rotor or something, it terminates back into itself. I wonder if that box sent the spark and my shit was all goofed up, and I wonder if there wasn't a few times where it sent a partial spark and it didn't get terminated and it ate it and it was just slowly wearing it down. And so then, of course, now we fixed it, but we've only made 2 passes since it fixed.
We have this lovely thing now called YouTube, so then we go back to our last few videos and we're like, does it sound weird? No? Yeah, I think it does. What about this clip? And then we'll pull out like the non-edited footage and we're like,
Data to us is invaluable, so any data we can get, we use.
Priceless. That's that word.
To the point where we're just asking random people, like at the track Friday, does this sound weird to you? And they're like, what? I don't know. And I'm like,
they're like, it smells weird.
What about you guys? And then, you're just asking anybody, like, hey, kid, this thing sound weird?
And we're like, where were you sitting, in the bleachers? Did you make a video?
Can I see your video? Which side were you on? I need one. You were on that side, you were on this side. Can I see both of your phones at the same time?
You have a burnout video or no?
Nobody gets the burnout videos, Jackie. Come on. No, a lot of weird stuff going on. So, but thankfully, it started. We got the car fired right up, went in the trailer. Oh yeah, and it fired up with a bang. But now it seems to be running even better, and I say that every time I do something to it. I say every time I change something, I'm like, ooh, that sound better? That sounds better to you, doesn't it? Sound better to you? Jackie goes, sounds the same. Always sounds the same. But then when I think it sounds the same, Jackie's, that thing sound weird to you?
But then when I said, there's something wrong, he said, no, it's not. You're stupid. I said, your turbo's slow. He was like, I didn't know turbos had to be identical,
dude.
Jackie.
Oh my God. Ever since you've done that, you screwed me up so bad. Whenever we had that issue with a valve or whatever when Billy was here, yeah. Jackie said that and she was right. And so now every time I start that stupid car,
I'd be looking at the turbos.
I stand there and I stare and I do this. And I'm trying to count the RPM. And I'm like, 1, 2, and I'm trying to count. I'm
You're
like,
going to start passing out.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that one's going about this fast.
Then you go to the other
The other one, I'm like, okay, we're good. I called Luis Fuel Tech and I said, hey man, I killed a box. I killed another one of those boxes. And he goes, what boxes? He's like, because I don't really, it's not like I kill anything. I'm talking about from 3 years ago or whatever. And I said, a spark box. And he goes, oh, okay, gotcha. And I said, but I got a race next week, so like, what are we going to do if I have a problem in this thing, if I'm actually tearing this thing up and I don't know it, this thing goes out at the race, like, man, talk about all for naught. And then he sent me the cutest message back. It was so sweet. He's so sweet. He sent me a message and it said like, hey man, if it doesn't get here by
You can't
Tuesday,
tell me what he said without his accent.
He said, no worries. First, did you visually inspect the box? Did you visually inspect the code? You count the code? He said,
are you sure?
If your box is not here by Tuesday, we send you our box, and then you send us your box, and we fix. You go.
Visually.
And then I said, wow, thanks, man. That's super awesome. And then he sent me the kissy face.
Wow.
Yep. So we're kind of,
He's hitting on my boyfriend.
I got that going for me. Oh yeah, we have a video coming out
It's
Thursday.
pretty sweet.
It's pretty sweet. Oh, Thursday's video is really sweet. Yeah. So
it starts with yellow and ends with belly.
We were trying to find another place to go test after we fixed the car, and we found a place thanks to Dan Lee and Limpy in Texas, and they got us hooked up with the sweetest place to test for war in the woods ever. They say that testing for Brown County, Indiana is impossible because there's nowhere like Brown County, Indiana, but we may have found the one place that will get us prepared like no other.
They may have never been to Yellow Belly,
we're
Texas.
talking about it? We're saying it?
Yeah, a lot of people already know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went to one of the oldest, most gangster outlaw tracks in the entire world. My first time there ever, and I got to run my car there, and it was the sweetest thing. It was insane.
Yeah.
There's words can't explain. Watch the video because words cannot explain. These are your submissions for jokes? I'm gonna read them because, you know, I come up with as many jokes as I can. Jackie tries to help come up with jokes too. She has some good ones in there. If you look back, she has some good ones. But this was her. She gave me these as like inspiration for jokes. She's like, here, if you can't think of any, use these. Just so you know, this is what Jackie came up with. This is her. This is her submission for the jokes. What kind of hair do they sell at IHOP? I didn't know they sold hair at IHOP, but okay. What kind of hair do they sell at IHOP, Jackie?
I already know the answer.
They sell extensions.
Stop.
It's a brain teaser there. Real twister. What does a hammer say to his
Homies.
homies? What does a hammer say to his homies? Nailed it. I'm not sure you're supposed to say that to his homies. What do you call a cop in bed?
I thought that was the best one.
Undercover.
Because he's under the...
Wow. No, we get the joke. We get it. How do you make holy water? You have to boil that. God damn it, Jackie. No.
I have another one.
Okay, let's hear it.
What do you call ghost poop?
I don't know.
Boo-boo. There's no way you don't think any of those are funny. Stop.
It's all in the delivery. Your delivery was funny on that one. Anyway, so that's it. Yeah. Join us Thursday for another special episode of In the Trailer with Chief and Jackie. Well, bye.